Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. To get started, the only thing that you will need is the color palette, which I have linked in the description below. It's totally free to download as always. Just grab that file, open it up on your iPad, and it'll import the new color palette directly into your list of color palettes. So take a quick break to go grab that and then come back when you have it and we will get started. Okay, to get started, we are first going to go over the canvas dimensions that I have here. They are 16 by 20 inches at 240 dpi. And we are doing this in landscape mode. So the side to side should be wider than the top to bottom. So first things first, we are on layer 1. We are going to go into our color palette and grab this very first bluish green color. That's the lightest one on the very first row. And we are going to drop that on the entire background. Boom, step 1 done. Next, add a new layer on top of that one. Go back into your color palette and select the second green color on the top row. And for our brush today, our main brush that we will be using for most of this is the hard airbrush. I made a copy of the original and turned the streamline up to 70%. That is what I like to use. And the first thing we're going to do is, starting from the left side, just draw a little hill that goes all the way from top to bottom, a little curve in there. Add a new layer on top of that one and draw another little hill next to it that's a little shorter. Connect that all the way around so that we can fill it in. And actually, we are going to move this below our first hill that we drew. And then each new layer we're actually going to put on the bottom, because from left to right, we want the one on the very left to be in the very front. So we are going to keep drawing more hills. This one will draw shorter as well. And then let's add one more layer, drag it to the bottom of the hills, and then we will make this last hill and make it a little bit taller and have it kind of go off the page. So again, left to right, the leftist one should be in front, with the far right one being on the bottom in terms of layers. So next we are going to draw our beach. So find the top layer, add a new layer on top of that so that the layer that we're on now is on the very top. And go into our color palette and we're going to grab this first tan color on the second row here. And using the same brush, the hard airbrush, our brush is at about 20% here. And now we're going to draw the beach. So we're just going to draw a horizontal line across the canvas, hold it down so it snaps into a line, and then touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. We want it, about halfway. You want to be able to see the parts in between your peaks that we drew in the background, so don't cover up those spaces there. Next, we are going to add the water from the beach. So add another new layer on top of the sand here that we just drew. And then go into the color palette and select this first one on the last row here. It's a light blue color. And we are using the same hard airbrush that we've been using this whole time. And we are going to draw some waves coming from the right side of the screen. You just want to make a big squiggly line back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, kind of like a wave would naturally look. Going from the far right of the screen, right covering up the sand all the way to the bottom. We want it to be a little further to the left when we get towards the bottom of the canvas so that you can see it kind of slants from left to right as we get further away towards the mountains. Now we're going to stretch it just to make the waves look a little more natural. So click the arrow icon on the top bar, make sure you're on freeform, and then drag it to the left just a little bit to kind of stretch it out. Now we're going to add some texture to the water. So go into your layers, add a new layer on top of the waves, and click on it and click clipping mask to turn this layer into a clipping mask. Then go into your color palette and select this second color on the last row, the lighter light blue color. And then in our brushes, we are going to go to charcoals and burnt tree, the very last one. I love using this brush for textures. We are going to put it at about 40 to 50%. And we're just gonna lightly brush side to side on the wave layer to add a little bit of texture. Awesome, and now we are actually going to do the same thing with the sand. So go into your layers, select the sand layer that we drew before, add a layer on top of it, and do the same thing. Click on the layer and click clipping mask. And then in the color palette, select the second tan color on the middle row. And using the same brush that we had before, we are just going to do the same thing and draw some texture on the sand. Awesome. Okay, now that we have that all done, we are going to start adding some more details. So next we are going to add some more smaller rocks in the background. So let's go into our layers, and we want to put these under the sand layer. So click on the top hill that you have and add a new layer on top of that one. And this is going to be the layer we're drawing on. And then go into the color palette and select this last dark green color on the first row. Let's go back to our hard airbrush that we had before. And again, we will be at about 20% with this. And then we're just going to draw some smaller rocks similarly to how we drew the first ones in the background. So they're going to be pretty smooth and pretty tall here and there. Fill them in by connecting them at the bottom, and just kind of vary them in shapes and sizes, and vary them with like how far apart they are from each other. We'll make these two kind of close together, and so on. You just want to do that all the way across and fill them all in. Okay, now we're going to add some rocks down below. So on top of the sand clipping mask, that texture layer, add a new layer and go back into your color palette and select this dark brown on the second row. Same brush, but we're going to lower the size down to 15-ish%, 10 to 15, somewhere in there. And draw some smaller rocks down below here. Again, vary them in shapes and sizes and how far apart they are to each other. We'll make some of them almost just like little dots, like you would see in the sand. Okay, that looks pretty good. Next, we are going to finally add our fog to our beach. So first, in the color palette, we will be using this last color on the last row, the lightest color there. And in our brushes menu, we are going into elements and the cloud brush. And we are going to be at about 35% here. And we are going to go into our layers menu, and the very bottom hill that you have, add a new layer on top of that. And we're just going to draw side to side towards the bottom part of the hill. Find the next hill, add a new layer on top of that, and do the same thing. And we're going to do that all the way up until we get to the top hill. So add another layer here. This helps so that you can see the edges of each of the hills, and that's why we made them all in separate layers. So add another one on top of this first one and do the same thing. And just kind of make sure to really fill it out, make some parts thicker than others. And just kind of add some to the whole scene up there. And then we are going to add fog on top of the rest of the picture that we have here. Go into the layers menu, and we are going to find the very top layer that we have, add a new layer on top of that. And that is what we will be drawing this next layer of fog on, because we want it to cover the entire rest of the picture. So drag it all along the beach and the water in front of those darker rocks that we just drew, and just kind of fill out the rest of it so it all kind of blends together. Okay, the last thing that we will be doing for the drawing is making our seagulls. So in the layers menu, add a new layer on top of that one that we just did, and using that same white color that we've been using, we will keep that, but go back to our hard airbrush. Leave the sides at about 15% like we had it before. So for our first bird, we are going to draw it kind of in the middle here, right around the rocks in the background. So we're going to first draw a curved line, hold your pen down at the end, and Procreate will make it a perfect curve, and then do the same thing mirroring the other side. And then we want to do the same thing below, but make it to where it comes a little closer in the middle to your top shape, and then it comes further out on the sides. So we want it to be skinnier in the middle and then wider on the wings. And then connect those edges and fill that in so that it's one big shape. Then this next bird is going to have more pointy wings, so we're going to draw a pointy shape, hold it down at the end, and Procreate will make the line straight. And then do the same thing on the other side, and again we want it to come a little closer together in the middle of the bird and then further apart on the wings. And then again connect the sides of the wings on each side and fill the shape in. Okay, and then we're going to draw another bird on the left here, and we are going to make this first wing kind of straight. So draw one line, let it snap to straight, and then draw another line kind of curved in towards it and have that one snap as well. And then we're going to draw another wing over here that's kind of crooked like the other bird that we just drew. Again, make the wings spread apart at the end but come closer together when they are at the middle. And then connect the sides and fill in the shape. And then I think I want this one to be moved a little bit, so I'm going to select it and move it over so that they're kind of spread out a little bit more. And I think I want this one to be a little bit bigger because he looks kind of small compared to his friends. And then we are going to use the eraser tool, which we are going to set to the hard airbrush as well. at about 10%, and we are going to erase little cutouts on each of their wings in a pointy shape, like so, and then erase the rest of the white area outside. And we're going to do the same thing on each of the wings. Okay, now that those are all done and nice and pointy, we are going to add the darkness to the ends of their wings. So add a new layer, turn it into a clipping mask, and grab this brown color that we used for the little rocks. Same brush, and we are just going to add some brown to the tips of their wings. You don't want to go too far in, just about like on this one where it almost comes to the turning point. And then same thing on this, just towards the ends of the wings. And that is it for today's tutorial. I hope you had fun. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more tutorials. Also, if you want to post your finished drawing on Instagram, please do so and tag me in it. I would love to see how it turned out. And while you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.